Hey, it is Dom here. I wanted to come in today and just share a little bit about my 2024 recap. And I'm honestly just going to focus mainly on the biggest thing of me relocating this year. First off, let me just start by saying your plan and God's plan are always going to be two different things. Like, He's going to give you the vision, He's going to plant the desires in your heart at a time, but the route in which you're going to get there, they're going to be two different things. And let me tell you, 2024 taught me just that. Like, at the beginning of the year, I got this big index card and I'm writing these things down that I wanted to accomplish. Like, this was what I felt was what was, God's desire and my desire for my life for this year. And I accomplished some of those things in ways that I don't know how, but other things I was not expecting that, like the relocation part. So welcome to the story. Like, I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about how I got here. I know some of y'all have been following along and you know that I've relocated from 757 to 615. So this actually started back in like 2018. So about 2017, I started really taking my walk with God really serious. Like, by 2018, I just knew, me and God, we was all in. And I just began to feel like the Lord was just pulling me from a lot of things. He had me in this place of just, consecration. And it felt like I could not stop getting the impression of moving to Tennessee out of my heart. Now, where I think, I went wrong, but it was all a part of God's plan, is that I got a little ahead of myself, skipped a couple of steps in the process, like still fairly new to digging the roots in my faith. And I was just ready to take off, like with the first thing that I saw, instead of continuing to seek God about the process and how I would get there, right? So I had ended up quitting my job. I ended up ending my lease with my roommate. And, she and I went our separate ways and everything. And I ended up going back home. Y'all, I was so upset. Like, I had things in place to come here and everything, and things were just not working out. Basically, it was not the Lord's timing. It was not the timing in which it was meant for me to come here yet. So, fast forward 2024. Like I said, wrote the whole index card of things that I felt like the Lord was just, placing on my heart for the year. Things to do, things to work on, things to accomplish, things to, let Him change. And y'all, my lease was set to end in October. So by January of the year, I'm like, all right, God, what are we doing this year? Like, because my roommate at the time, she was making plans of her own and consulting God about what her next move was. So I knew it was time for some decisions to be made. And prior to this, a year prior, actually in 2023, I went to a retreat and I had received the word. And I had received the word that I had a big decision to make. And that in this decision, that the choice of whatever I chose to do was going to be mine. And that was probably one of the hardest parts of that word, because I'm usually like, God, just tell me what to do, But I realized, the Lord gives us free will. He gives us the choice to decide what we want to do. What do you want to do? Do you want to trust me for more? Do you want to trust me in the unknown? Do you want to trust me to do this for you? Or do you want to stay here and be, comfortable and be okay with where you are and not have to grow in your faith and not have to grow in me and not have to, change anything? So I'm one who is not very comfortable with change at times, not very here for the new stuff. Like, once I get settled with something, I'm like, yes, we good. Like, I'm rocking and rolling with this. I done planted my roots. Like, we are good. But like I said, the word was, the decision is going to be yours, and this will be the fork in the road. Y'all, when I got that word that day, I was honestly in a frustrated place, frustrated with God. Like, okay, God, my life don't look like it is adding up to what I know you showing me. So I wrote the word down. One thing on this faith journey you want to make sure that you are doing, write down the words that you are receiving. If you are, getting a prophetic word, if you're receiving a download, the Lord is placing something in your heart, you don't understand it, get a journal and write it down. I promise you, it will change your life, because you're documenting it along the way. You're keeping track of it, and you're able to take this thing back to God, to pray it through, to ask him for clarity on it, ask him what is he trying to reveal in this thing. And that is exactly what I did. Like, I wrote it in a notebook that day that I received that word, and I was just like, okay, God, you make sense of this, because I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what decision I gotta make, because honestly at the time it was a couple of decisions I could have made, and I just, I wasn't about to be like, well, maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, maybe that, There was one that I made like more immediate following that, but I knew that there was something more. But I let, time pass, and I still felt that one word pressing upon my heart. Again, tried to ignore it. I went to a conference earlier this year, not earlier, maybe like a few months back, and one of my favorite speakers, her name is Prophetess Sophia Ruffin, was up speaking, and I'm there with my best friend. So at the time, she already knows like what's about to happen, like what's going on. Like, hey, I feel that the Lord is telling me to relocate. And she releases this word as she's on the stage speaking, and she literally goes that this year there are a few types of anointings that the Lord is like releasing, and one of them was the anointing to relocate. And I promise y'all, like, I just closed my little notebook like, all right, God, I'm good, it's all right. And like following that again, just wrote it down, no immediate action, but I'm just like, if I needed any more confirmation, like God is literally starting to line the confirmation up at this point. Like, now I'm like, okay, God, this is getting too real. Like, my lease is about to end. Things are starting to change at my job. Things are getting real around here. Like, there's a lot. It's a heaviness on me. Like, there is a weight. Like, I know there is a decision that needs to be made. Like, so I'm just praying, and I'm like, God, I know that if I, stay here, like, I'm going to be uncomfortable. Like, I don't know what to do. So the Lord just began to just remind me of the first word, like, the decision is going to be yours. So I just, wrote the pros and the cons of what would happen if I stay. What could possibly happen if I go? And honestly, this is a point where you have to guard your heart and guard your mind. You have to be grounded in your word, because when I say that the main things that were popping in my head were everything negative. Like, God, what if I go there and I don't make it? What if I go there and I fail and have to come right back home? God, what if I go there and I look stupid? Like, it was just all types of things that the enemy like wanted me to believe like immediately would happen. And I literally had to, let's scratch that. What if I go there and this goes right? What if I go there and my life changes forever? What if I go there and the Lord stretches my faith in ways that, will forever be a foundation in my faith journey? What if I go there and this be the best decision that I ever made for my life? So I had to start speaking the word back to it, honestly. Like, so I had to start going through, finding scriptures on fear, finding scriptures on stability, finding scriptures on, God sustaining, on God being a comforter, on God being peace, like all these things of God being, the provider. Like, I had to literally go in and combat what my brain was thinking with what the word says, because I know that what the word says is more important than any thought that could come to my mind at the time. So I had to do that. And then after I did that, one night I decided to just sit out in my living room, and I got serious with God. I was finally like, God, I've decided to take this leap of faith. I finally made my choice. I finally come to terms with what it is that you are nudging me to do, but you are not literally requiring me to do. You are giving me the ability to make this choice in this moment if I want to stay or if I want to go. So, like I said, got on my knees and prayed. Journaled out everything, journaled out the things that I was like praying for, as far as like, God, when I get there, I pray that I have a place to stay. I pray that, you'll help me to meet people. I pray that you'll, lead me into all the places that you're having me go into. So got on my knees, finished praying. And then I got up from prayer and literally got online and applied for an apartment. And it took about a week or so. I started getting a little weird because I was like, all right, well, the Lord must not want me to go. Because last time I got an apartment approval, it was kind of like more immediate, but I was just like, all right, it's taking a little while, so maybe this is maybe this, and maybe this is that, but got the approval, and I was like, all right, God, well, we got an apartment approval, so things are like really starting to get real. Like throughout that whole time, I had to literally move in silence, and that was the most uncomfortable thing. Like when I say so uncomfortable, like the Lord had already like given me the warning in the beginning, like to make this time different from the last time. The last time I was just word vomit. Like the Lord has told me to take the leap of faith and move, and this time I was just like, we're going to be quiet. We're going to pray this thing through every step of the way. We are going to literally seek wise counsel. We are going to literally stay submitted to God in this thing. So, like I said, had to submit that thing to God, had to literally seek him every step of the way, had to pray it through, had to remain silent. And it was hard because I literally had no words to tell people of what was going on in my life. When I say even down to like the warfare, just, of the mind, just felt so intense and so it was a lot, and even still in relocating, it has been a lot, but I have been literally having to get up every day and command, these things and speak my word and pray over this situation, but literally remained silent, prayed it through, sought wise counsel. Only a few people knew, and then I started to make the decisions and the steps that I needed to make to get here. Like I started, putting in my resignation at work. I put in, my letter at church and let them know that I was leaving. Things of this nature. Like I started closing the chapter. And that was the hard part. And nobody warned me for the feelings that would come from all of those decisions at one time. And when I say it hit me like a ton of bricks, it was like wham, because things weren't bad, at all. I was really comfortable. I was okay with where I was, but I knew that the Lord was calling me into the next level, calling me to stretch my faith into the next step. And it required me to make a decision and to stand flat-footed on that decision and to commit to him and to make the necessary moves. I had to do my part because there are some things I had to put in his hands, but then there were things that I had to do along the way. Even in relocating here, I was worried about hey God, where am I gonna stay? In the in between, I have a little gap in between my lease ending and then me going to my next, where am I gonna go? And the Lord literally worked it out that someone allowed me to stay with them rent free for just about a whole month. And when I say in today's society, that is really uncommon. And I really, was fighting with the decision because I really didn't want to go that route, but I really was thankful that God began to show me before I even left that his hand was on what I was doing and that he was with me and that he was going to provide and keep me and sustain me. So that was literally him just gently calming all my fears. And when I say I have never cried so many tears of gratitude before, but I was just so thankful for how God graced me through this process. Some people don't have this story. Everybody's story is gonna be different, when they relocate, when you relocate. But so I literally just wanted to just tell this part of my testimony because I always think of the quote where I think it's by Maya Angelou, and it just basically talks about there's nothing like an untold story, you're just carrying it around. So just I've been here a month, like I said, and now I feel led to begin sharing at least the process of how I got here and how things have been going thus far. Like I said, it's been a little over 30 days. And I have officially relocated, and this was a whole process. The Lord literally guided me through it, but I followed his voice and his instructions. And I want to encourage the one who feels that the Lord is leading them to relocate or make a big decision. It doesn't even have to be relocation, but if you hear the Lord telling you to do these things, know that you're hearing him correctly. Like I said, seek wise counsel, remain silent. Don't try to include everybody in the plan. Sometimes you just gotta take what God has given you, write it down, pray about it, and run with the vision that he's giving you. And it's gonna hurt a little bit because you aren't able to tell everybody. Like, I didn't even have the opportunity to like tell all my friends and family, you know, in the ways that I wanted to. I had to remain silent, and it was kind of hurting me on the inside a little bit because I was just like, you know, I don't want to just abruptly leave when it's time, which, you know, when it got closer to time, I did start like giving a little bit of hint at it. But it was like over the course of it, it was just like, no, remain silent. So yeah, like, I want to encourage you to do what the Lord is calling you to do, what he's leading you into. Be obedient. You never know what your obedience is going to get you. And even, you know, if your obedience doesn't get you anything, just trust in God. It teaches you to hear his voice. It teaches you to trust him more than anything else. And this was one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever had to do, the hardest things I've ever